Since 1971, Adventist World Radio has been spreading the loving message of Jesus' soon return all over this world. Come with me to Namibia, Tanzania, and India to explore what God is doing to reach the unreached. With Adventist World Radio, there are no walls, no borders, and no limits to God's power. From just one cell phone, an entire church has been planted in Namibia. I'm Cami Utman, and this is AWR 360. A year ago, we came to Namibia to learn about how cell phone evangelism is spreading fast around the world. Started by Neville Neveling after seeing a need in his area, now people across the globe are using their phones for evangelism. From the blind to the quietest person in the church, the message of the Lord is being sent out. We are back here because we have heard remarkable stories coming as a result of cell phone evangelism.
Now, remarkable things have been happening this past year. A year ago when we visited under the tree at Barbie's church, I did not mention to you that this area actually had very minimal Adventist reach.
Though evangelism has been tried, it was unsuccessful.
You see, this area is actually predominantly Roman Catholic. I must say, I did not actually think that AWR 360 cell phone evangelism would have this kind of impact.
Our AWR team is traveling far into northeastern Namibia to the city of Kashira. There has been no Adventist churches there, that is until just a year ago, when Barbie started one under her tree. She has been listening to cell phone evangelism and enjoyed learning about the truth she heard. But it was the message about the Sabbath that really woke her up. 1 week after hearing the message, she started a church under her tree. She then invited the community to join her, and they came. But now some incredible things have happened.
After your visit, our church has grown dramatically.
Their Pathfinder Club has been doing great things for the community. From doing work for the neighbors to singing, they are representing Adventism in a great way. She also has a community garden in the back and has been teaching the villagers how to grow their own food. And many people have come to listen to her health seminars.
But then it wasn't long ago, as I was working in my house on Friday afternoon, prepping for the Sabbath, when I heard a lot of noises.
She then noticed that a crowd of people had gathered outside her house. She couldn't believe it. It was then that a man entered the house.
He said his name was Opa. He was from the town of Divandu, and that he and his group wants to join our church.
This was quite amazing because this region in northern Namibia really has had no Adventists, maybe 10 total in the entire area.
Just looking at this area where Barbie's church has been established, it's part of a minority people group in Namibia, Ngwizi. So there's not a lot of these people around. It's a minority group, and the group as such are actually Catholic. So it's very, very difficult to get into such a group because it's like changing group dynamics.
So when Barbie started the church, the word spread quickly. But how did the new group hear about Barbie and make a decision to join? For that, we must meet them as they walk to church. This is no ordinary trek. You see, for them to get to Barbie's, they must walk all day on Friday. We head out in search of this group. Northern Namibia has a population of 220,000. Because of the poor roads, this area gets few visitors. It has the highest level of poverty in Namibia, with about half the population considered poor. But it is in this area that lives are being changed. This group is currently on a 40-mile hike to Divundu. It will take them all day to get there. Over sand, rocks, and hills, they march on. It's an amazing sight to see this many people making this long walk. Upa Stephen is the leader of the group. He's the one who made the decision to find this new church.
I go because we must learn about God. I have been waiting years for an Adventist church. Even if it were 80 miles away, we would still walk to it.
Upa was one of the few Adventists in this region of Namibia. He lives a simple life of managing his animals and sitting outside his house.
For many years, I was alone in my faith, and with no church nearby, I could not invite anyone to learn with me.
But then, when Barbie's church started, word started spreading around the area about this new belief.
A rumor came to me that an Adventist church had started in the town of Divundu. I almost cried when I heard that. I prayed to God that it was true.
He wasted no time inviting the people of his area to trek with him to Divundu. He said, "They are teaching the truth, and we must go." Nearly 50 people came with him, eager to hear this new truth about Jesus. The trek is long, and anyone could have been easily discouraged about walking all day, but they wanted to hear more about this church.
When we arrived, I was very excited to meet Barbie for the first time.
His first words were that he wanted to join the church.
That night we pitched tents and prepared for the Sabbath, waiting in anticipation for the morning.
And the next morning, they had their first church service together. Everyone in the group was impressed with the Sabbath message and were determined to return the very next week. When AWR heard about how the church had grown, we knew the tree that they were worshiping under would not be enough. And this is when we sought our AWR supporters like you. AWR's webpage lists many needs all around the globe. From terrorists in the Philippines to the high mountain area of Nepal, lives are being changed. But it cannot be done alone. It is only through our faithful supporters that AWR can keep these broadcasts going. And now this group of people have a church to worship in. Hands across the globe join to support this project, and I know God has blessed. The most amazing thing is, this is the first cell phone evangelism church.
After that first visit, everyone wanted to return.
Upa has since made many treks to worship on the Sabbath. I really am amazed to think that 1 year ago there was less than 10 Adventists in this entire area. Yet because someone sent one message through their cell phone, now there's a community of believers. I can't help but think that if all of us would just do the Lord's will and evangelize, how many more lives would be saved for Christ's kingdom? On this Sabbath morning, we attend the church service. It was just 1 year ago we were here under a tree. And now we are dedicating a new church, and there is a communion and foot washing service. Many phones were dedicated to sharing cell phone evangelism. And after this, it is time for many to be baptized. You see, many in Upa's group have made the decision to dedicate themselves to the Lord. This is what AWR 360 is all about, from broadcast to baptism.
I am so amazed that through my cell phone I was reached, and now, just 1 year later, there's a new church and many people have been baptized. God is working mightily all around the world.
Friends, the lives saved here today are because someone shared the love of Christ through their cell phone. They looked at their hand and they saw the tool to reach another. AWR 360 calls upon you to share these important Bible truths. It is only working together that we can spread the message of the Lord to the entire world.
As Christians, our family is much larger than our immediate biological family. In fact, we have brothers and sisters that live in more than 200 countries all around the world. We want to remember them in our estate plan. We can help you with that process. Just log on to awr.org.
Welcome to a country shared by thousands of animals, over 120 different tribal groups, and home to some of Africa's most famous national parks. I'm in Tanzania, and this is AWR 360.
My name is Michael, and I live in the northern part of Tanzania. I have a beautiful wife and family, and grow vegetables to sell.
As a teenager, Michael had embraced the Seventh-day Adventist message, but as the years passed by, he laid aside his faith and slowly forgot about God. Michael settled down, married, and began to put all his time and energy into growing vegetables for sale. He took pride in his beautiful garden and always kept it neat. Then one day, something happened that would disrupt their peaceful, quiet lives and ruin Michael's garden.
I started having terrible problem. Wild pigs would come into my garden at night, destroying my plants and eating my vegetables. In order to protect the crops, I began staying up all night to keep watch.
One evening, as he kindled a fire and prepared for another long night, Michael switched on his radio. The station playing was new to him, but the words sounded strangely familiar. It had been so many years since he had heard anything about Jesus. It was all such a distant memory. The night passed more quickly this time, and when morning broke, Michael's little radio was still playing the station he would later learn was Adventist World Radio. The second night, Michael again turned his radio to AWR and this time invited 5 of his neighbors to come listen as well.
On the third night, a message about faith was presented on the radio. My heart was touched, and I said to my friends, if there is a God big enough to protect our crops, why are we staying up the whole night?
Michael decided he would give God a second chance. In an effort to test and see if God was real, Michael remained home the next night instead of going out and watching over his crops. Before bed, he gathered his family together to listen to AWR and pray for God's protection. The next morning, Michael went outside to survey his crops. Amazingly, there was no damage.
I was so excited and went running back to share the good news with my family. For the first time in my life, I realized that God was real and cared for me.
Night after night, Michael returned home, listened to his radio, and once again prayed for God's protection before peacefully sleeping. Michael's neighbors began to ask questions. They had watched as the pigs passed by Michael's fields, only to eat their surrounding crops. The neighbors felt sure it was witchcraft. But Michael gladly explained about the radio and a God who would even protect vegetables from pigs.
Several of my neighbors decided to test God too and listen to AWR at home instead of guarding their crops at night. And the pigs no longer bothered their vegetables either.
Before long, Michael, his family, and 30 other people from his village decided to give their lives to Jesus through baptism.
We are so thankful for Adventist World Radio. If we had not heard it, we would still be out in the dark, guarding our crops from pigs, and would have missed hearing about Jesus.
3 years later, Michael's garden continues to grow well, and the wild pigs have never returned. Michael loves to tell everyone about Jesus, and with a big smile, shared with us that he is a missionary now. His love for Jesus and the Seventh-day Adventist Church has been rekindled, and he has a passion born from a personal experience of faith and trust. And all of this is the simple result of a radio broadcast and a God big enough to answer prayer. Thank you for your generous support of Adventist World Radio. Through it, lives are being touched and transformed for eternity.
I grew up in Indiana, and I've been a farmer all my life. My father, every time we'd plant a field, when we got through, we'd always kneel down and have prayer that we'd done our part, now the Lord would do his. And he always come through. After praying about it, my wife and I decided to do a gift annuity through Adventist World Radio. It goes to people that normally is not going to hear it. And that's what our Three Angels message is all about, to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. When you're a farmer, you don't have a retirement plan. It was a good way to supplement our retirement. It's been a blessing to us, and I know it's going to be a blessing to those others around the world.
Join me as I leave the beautiful country of Tanzania to hear the amazing testimony of one pastor living in India. Eight out of every 10 Indians say that religion is very important in their lives. For Pastor L, that is definitely true. He is a speaker and evangelist at over 400 charismatic revival churches across India. His goal in life is to share Christ with everyone around him. But where did he get such fervor? Pastor L was a miracle baby. His parents dedicated him to God as a tithe, as he was their 10th child. After the tragic death of his parents at a very early age, it was this memory that gave Pastor L hope to continue in life. He hopes to see his parents one day soon when Jesus comes again. In the year 2000, Pastor L entered full-time ministry as a Christian revival pastor. He thought he was sharing the right message, but one day he came across a sermon on the Sabbath by an AWR speaker on YouTube that troubled him. He could not deny the conviction that this was plain truth. But to stand for the truth meant sacrifice. Leaving the friends and connections you've had all your life isn't easy. He was disowned by his own family members as they believed he had accepted heretical teaching. One prominent pastor told him, "You may join any other denomination, even Catholicism, but do not follow Seventh-day Adventists." But Pastor L could not find peace until he made a stand. His heart desired to obey all the commandments. When he accepted the Sabbath at last, peace and joy filled his heart. His only desire in life is to share the Seventh-day Adventist message with those around him. But in 2012, a stroke changed his life forever. Pastor L was sick and paralyzed for 13 long days. Through all of this, his faith grew stronger in Christ. He did not fear death as he knew that God still had a work for him to do. He remembered his miraculous birth and held on to God's promises. In the end, God had the victory. Pastor L now works to bring the truth to native places and is working to build churches and Bible study centers in his home province where there is none. Come with me to the continent of Africa, where one of our faithful radio producers has sacrificed so much to reach his fellow countrymen for Jesus. Hi, I'm Cammie, and this is AWR 360.
It was late one afternoon as I closed the door to my office at the AWR station. I would be gone for several days.
As Assad boarded the bus, nothing seemed unusual. It was like any other day, only today he was traveling farther, this time returning home for a short visit. Despite religious persecution in his country of birth, Assad longed for his people to know Jesus, and this spurred him on. All of a sudden, Assad's thoughts were interrupted.
Cringed as they reached for me too, and then to my horror yelled, "This is the man we are looking for." They said they knew of my work with the radio and wanted my contacts. Unsatisfied with the answers I gave, they threw me into a large empty container.
Shut out from fresh air and sunshine, he sat in darkness. His socks, shoes, and jacket were taken, and Assad suffered from the extreme conditions. As the sun beat down in the day, the metal container intensified the heat, while at night, a sharp chill set in. Without food or water, Assad soon fell very sick.
As I sat in the dark isolation of the container, my mind went back to my childhood. Scenes of my village being raided by night flashed before me. Those men had worn masks too. Somehow I escaped though, and I ran with all my might. Alone in the darkness, I wondered for the first time, what would become of me?
Assad's mind lingers on the memories. There was the orphanage he was taken to, and the boys that introduced him to Adventist World Radio. They huddled together listening, knowing that if caught, punishment would ensue. Christianity was not allowed here, but this only made them long all the more for the truth. Then there was that day when the orphanage director had called him into her office. Assad was old enough now, and he must leave the orphanage. His heart ached as he walked away, never to return. Again, he wondered, what will become of me? Now he sat alone in a metal shipping container, pondering this same question he had as a lonely child and dejected orphan. Assad closed his eyes and thought about his work with Adventist World Radio. Since escaping his home country, Assad had been producing Adventist radio programs in his native tongue for his people back home. Christianity was forbidden in his country, but the radio could carry the message that missionaries could not.
I wondered what would become of my radio program now. Who would carry on the work if I didn't return?
The days and weeks passed. Assad was released from the container, but the inhumane conditions remained. Starved, beaten, and even electrocuted, he had endured more than any human should.
One day, without notice, my hands were unbound and I was told I could return home. I could hardly believe it. I was free. I was praising the Lord as I boarded a bus again, this time headed home to my family and my work at the radio station.
Despite the harrowing experience Assad has been through, he faithfully continues his work with AWR, producing messages of hope and truth for his home country. Assad trusts the Lord to keep him safe and knows that as long as God wants him to be producing these programs, nothing can stop him.
There are many others like Assad who have suffered great persecution to share their faith, and yet there are many more who still need to hear about Jesus. Please pray for these precious souls and consider helping to further the work of Adventist World Radio around the world by donating today. Together from broadcast to baptism, this is AWR 360.